Loree Philip, thanks for joining me on Listening with Leaders. You are an ICF certified executive coach, and you can be found at WeSparkCoaching.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doug. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So one of the things that I find very interesting about you is that you started out in corporate America, and you worked for Boeing for a long time, and then you made a huge shift. And the reason that resonates with me is because I did the same thing. I was a trial lawyer for 22 years before becoming a peacemaker. So tell me about your journey.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's been such a big and important thing for me lately because that shift you were talking about just happened last year in July.
Oh, it's new.
I walked out. Yes, it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
But it's still fresh in my mind. I had 16-year career at Boeing, and what really happened with me is that I thought I was going to be there for 30 years because that's what you do with a big company like Boeing. You stay there your whole life. And during the pandemic, I really got the virus and what was going on, and people were really worried about their health, right? And about their families and about things that were really important, sort of elevated to the top. And then I started seeing things that didn't feel so important, like my corporate career all of a sudden felt so meaningless. I'd be in these meetings and, Boeing does some great and amazing things. And I was working on the defense side of the business. So there was a lot there to be proud of. But just the day-to-day corporate stuff that comes in, I just started to see it as so meaningless. And I was spending a lot of my time and energy doing things I wouldn't have otherwise chose to do. And something clicked in me where I thought, I really want to spend the rest of my career doing something that I love. But at that time, I didn't know what it was that I really wanted to do. And so it was about 15 years in that I decided to start exploring. And I came across coaching and started the process to get trained. So I did that while I was still at Boeing and got a lot of experience under my belt before I actually left.
What's been your experience in the years since you left corporate America?
Oh my gosh. I was joking about this the other day with somebody because it feels like when you decide to go out and do your own thing and become an entrepreneur and chart your own course, it's almost like it's kind of a mean thing to do to yourself because all of your baggage pops up. Like everything you never expected to show up pops up. Like, oh, I didn't realize I had this fear of being seen and putting myself out there until I was out there and I was not telling anybody about what I was doing, Wow. So in the last year since I left, I really did feel like I've grown more than the prior 5+ years in corporate America.
Wow. I think that happens a lot. And you're finding your time, are you spending more time working on your coaching practice than you did working at Boeing, or are you able to find a pretty good dynamic balance between working and your family?
It's interesting that you asked this question because I left with this idea of I wanted more freedom and flexibility. I really did. That was a big reason why I decided to start my own thing and not go work for another company, maybe in a different industry, or maybe still do coaching, but for a company. And then I got into it and I found myself to be so much more busy than I was at corporate. And part of that was self-imposed. Once you start wanting to do the work, all of a sudden you're just doing it. And then so it was really easy for me to lose sight of, wait a minute, I decided I wanted to have extra flexibility, time off, balance. So I have done a bit of rebalancing on that, but it is really easy to kind of jump in, and there's just, as an entrepreneur, endless amounts of things you could be doing.
That's right.
And so, and I have shiny object syndrome sometimes where I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to go do it. Oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to go do it. So I'm working on that and scaling back a bit on, and mostly prioritizing.
What gets you really excited? What gets you up in the morning?
I am so excited because I feel like what I'm doing now is my purpose. And it just gets me up, because it's, before I would just get up, I'm like, okay, I have another day, whatever, I'll just see what's on my calendar. Now I get up and I'm like, okay, this is a journey I'm on, and every day I'm getting like closer and closer and closer to it. So my mission in my business is really supporting women in their careers. And so one of the things that I'm focused on that really gets me excited is to see the progress with my clients, with my podcast listeners who reach out to me and say, hey, I really took this away from that episode, thank you so much. Or I really resonated with what you said. So it becomes about how I'm supporting others, where when I was in corporate, it was mostly about just kind of getting the work done and getting the kudos from the boss and making an executive look good. And so it just feels much more fulfilling.
You have stumbled upon the secret to happiness in life. And that is, when you learn how to serve others, life becomes meaningful. And there are very few people that get that insight. So congratulations, you got it.
Thank you. I feel like I get a prize.
A happy life. Because
that's bigger than anything, right? Is a happy life.
And that's why I left the practice of law to become a peacemaker. And I help more people in a week than I helped in 22 years as a trial lawyer. And I mean, that's what drives me. That's pretty cool. Good for you. I'm proud of you. Nice job. So what makes you, Loree, a unique? What uniqueness do you bring to your coaching practice?
Oh my goodness. I have so much uniqueness, and I think each person does, right? So I have my own unique life experience. And what's cool is that I focus my efforts on supporting not just any woman, but women who are in corporate, which I have my own personal experience doing that, and being a mom, and working in a environment in an industry that's male dominated. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. There's just certain challenges and different ways to approach it when you're a female in that environment. And so I bring that experience, and I've also brought my own personal growth to the table, along with the coaching skills. So there's the coaching skills. You go to school, you get a certification, they teach you how to be a good listener, a good question asker, a good this, a good that. But then when you add it to yourself and all of your experience, all of your own growth and your perspective, you can really bring a unique perspective and support.
So you got a trifecta, right? You got your personal experience in the corporate world. You got all the training you got through ICF and all that training, and you've got your own personal growth experience. So your client, you can relate to your clients because they are having the exact same problems that you've been working on solving.
Yeah, and that's a big one, because in order to really help somebody make significant growth and progress, they have to be in an environment where they have a trusting and respectful environment. They have to connect with you,
right,
to feel like they can open up and get vulnerable.
Right.
And that's where all the major shifts can occur. So just having that right off the bat makes a big difference. I mean, you can develop that with people even if you don't share all the same experiences, but it happens quicker when you have those common connections.
Absolutely. So tell me about the importance of listening in your work. You had a
Oh, goodness.
beautiful thoughts in our Authority magazine article. But just recap for us the importance of listening.
Oh my goodness. So I'm really love that you asked about listening in the article. It's not a topic that comes up enough.
No.
And as a coach, listening is one of the top skills that you need to have, because what you can do with powerful listening is really hear a person at their core level. They're what they're saying, what they're not saying. They're just like, you absorb everything in and you're listening with your whole body, your ears, you get their vibe, right? And so you can help them sort of get through to some things that they're not even noticing just by hearing what they have to say. It's also an amazing tool to use to go back to what I was talking about before around trust and connection, because people in this digital age and the instant gratification and distraction, the attention economy, people are just not used to having other people sit down, listen to what they have to say. They're the most important person in the room, and really hear them. And if you can do that for somebody, wow, they will connect with you so much easier. So it's useful as a coach, but it's so useful for anybody as a tool, and in an authentic way. You're not just trying to listen to somebody to get business, or, you know what I mean? Like, you really want to get to know that. It's a lot of curiosity,
right?
When you're good at listening.
I call it listening others into existence. Because so many people have never been heard. They've been basically ignored, and no one has ever taken the time to really listen to them. And what I teach is how to listen to emotions. So there are four. I don't know if you've heard about my work, but I teach 4 levels of I call it reflective listening: mirroring, paraphrasing, core messaging, and affect labeling. And in the affect labeling, we are ignoring the words, reading the emotions, and reflecting back the emotions with a use statement. And brain scanning studies show that when you do this, the human brain just, all the emotions quiet down, the prefrontal cortex comes back online, amazingly magical things happen in the brain. And I've used it. I've used that technique in the Prison of Peace project that I co-founded with Laurel Coffer back in 2009, where we train murderers how to be powerful peacemakers to stop prison violence, and they do it. And the first skill we teach them is how to listen to emotions.
Wow.
Really powerful.
It's so powerful. I love the science behind it.
Yes.
Because I get it at an intuitive level.
Right.
And it's cool to see the science around what happens with the brain. The thing that I like to teach my clients about isn't as much listening to other people, but listening to themselves.
Well, that's right. There's another aspect to affect labeling, which is if you get really angry and upset yourself, you can literally affect label yourself and calm yourself in 90 seconds. So if I were really angry, I'd say, I'm really angry. I'm really pissed off. I'm frustrated. Nobody's listening to me. I'm really anxious. I'm a little embarrassed. And I feel abandoned and unloved and rejected, betrayed. Calm right down. So you're right. Learning how to listen to yourself is really powerful. And it's a great tool. It's called implicit emotional self-regulation. And again, it's science-based, and it's just really powerful stuff. Really cool. So do you teach your clients how to listen? Obviously, you listen to them, but do you engage them in listening exercises or learning how to listen to other people and to themselves?
Mostly to themselves, because one of the hot topics that I coach on is around confidence and combating imposter syndrome. And yeah, I'm actually developing a pretty in-depth program around it. But the listening part we do through personal inquiry and journaling. And so where they sit down and they're asking themselves questions, because when you strengthen that connection with yourself and who you are and start to really listen and ask yourselves questions, is when you start to trust and love and pay attention to yourself more, that confidence will shine through.
That's right.
So that's one of the things that I teach my clients, more so than listening to others, which is obviously important, but we're mostly focusing on themselves.
Interesting. I teach my clients how to listen to others, especially their emotions, because what I found over the years is that when they learn how to listen this way, they get a huge boost of self-confidence, and it kind of washes away the imposter syndrome. Really pretty interesting.
So maybe we can merge the two.
Yeah.
How powerful would that be?
Well, we're kind of getting out of time. I know we started a little bit late, but I really appreciate it. I have one more question for you.
Sure.
What's the one thing about you, Loree, that we would not know unless you revealed it to us?
Ooh. You know what? I think the one thing that you wouldn't know is that I actually started my podcast because I had a fear of being in the spotlight.
Wow.
I had a fear of being seen. And so in order for me to be successful in my business, I needed to get comfortable talking about myself, putting myself out there and jumping right in. And so I did this, and it was kind of, like I said, it was kind of a mean thing to do to myself, because I was in the corner breathing into a bag, metaphorical paper bag, like freaking out after I posted about it on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm starting a podcast. I click send, people are starting to read it, and I'm like on the floor having an anxiety attack. And so
good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good for you.
And it got easier. And so that's the message. Like, you jump in, it's scary, and then it becomes comfortable. And then before you know it, you're on other people's podcasts, very comfortably talking with them about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Loree. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks so much.